What's going on, everybody, and welcome back. So in this one we're going to be working on the Avalanche, and we are working on fabricating our turbo manifold. So I got my flashlight charging up. I'll show you guys. I went ahead and took the whole front clip off of this thing because I know I'm going to have to mock up the intercooler and everything. So that's all ordered and on the way. I'm going to have to do some cutting, put a pretty big core in this thing. Should be pretty sweet. Hopefully it fits without too much modification. I'm definitely going to have to modify this, maybe the hood latch too. It's probably going to be in the way of the intercooler because it's a 3-inch core. So hopefully it should be nice, should flow, should be pretty future proof. So anyway, over here is looking real clean after that cam install. I'm super pumped about how clean everything came out. Just knowing everything's refreshed in here is, it makes me all warm and fuzzy, if you will. I like knowing my stuff's rebuilt and gone through. It just gives me peace of mind. But yeah, we're gonna keep plugging away at removing the manifold here. I'm gonna pull the spark plug wires out of there. We're probably gonna have to run different plug wires. So I just want to get the manifold off, get the cast manifold on with a couple of studs put in there in place, and then we can see just how the cast manifold fits and figure out how we're gonna make this manifold, where I'm gonna cut. And I'm going to get to work fabricating because I need to do my crossover pipe. So I'll probably disassemble the Y pipe from underneath, take that out, and yeah, then we'll go from there. So I did get it all apart. I have a little bit of red Loctite on each of these stainless steel studs that I got. And I'm just going to run them down until they're tight with this guy. And I figure the Loctite should help keep them nice and affixed in there, and they will never pull out when I go to pull the nuts off. Hopefully that's the plan. I might have overdone it with the Loctite a little bit, to be honest. These are definitely never coming out because I used the red Loctite too, but we'll see. Maybe it won't hold up to the heat, I don't know. So it is a couple nights later. I got the manifold on, and you guys can see I've got a little bit of work to do here to make this work. But basically this is where the flange sticks out when you flip this manifold upside down. Instead of going down, it sticks up like this, and this is where I plan to add the flange. So I'm probably going to have this come up a little bit here and then throw the flange right here flat, and then just figure out the mounting of the turbo. I just got to make sure it's over enough, but I don't want to touch this line. I got to see whether or not I want to relocate the coolant jug. I definitely have to do something with these heater core lines because these are definitely in the way and they're rubbing up against it. So I may need to get something to make a 90 here, like some sort of fitting to stick in here to make a 90, and then I could send it down and around this way. And this other one here, I might do the same thing down here because it's kind of kinked. So I may get a couple of 90 fittings or maybe a 45 and just kind of send it the other way and give myself a little bit of slack too because I'm really tight here, and just kind of route them up in this direction. So that's what I plan to do with the heater core lines. That's got to get done. And also the plug wires are going to be a bit of an obstacle. The ones that I grabbed from the junkyard unfortunately don't fit. I was going to go down and around, so I may have to either try some other wires or just try to go down underneath. And I think this could work if I heat wrap the manifold as well as put some sort of heat wrap on this, and it might touch, but I think with both of them heat wrapped it should be okay. I don't know if I want to go that route. I've heard of going with really short ones and you kind of angle them like this, and then you get really short ones and they kind of go down and don't touch, and then you heat wrap the manifold and this, and I think that's probably what I'm going to have to do. So I'm going to have to get even shorter plug wires here. I'm not sure where I'm going to find those, but I'm going to have to try that because otherwise this is going to melt. So that's unfortunate. So we got to figure out the plug wires still. I thought I had that figured out, but we'll have to troubleshoot that. But for right now, I think I'm going to chop this flange off and try to gut this thing, just like I saw somebody do on YouTube, Just Insane. He made a manifold like this, and I'm going to try it. I'm going to try to just gut it, and I got to figure out the rear entrance here against this, and I'm kind of building down there. I'm building the crossover, and I got to a point where I feel like I need to have this set up first. So I do have my 2.5-inch V-band that I would like to use right here. So I'm going to throw that on there, and then I think I'm going to try to use 2.5-inch pipe on top of this to make my whole setup, and hopefully it should flow enough power for me. I'm not trying to make crazy power, so I think a 2.5-inch pipe will be plenty. So I'm going to try to come up and make this guy come up here, and just kind of slice this whole thing here. Try to keep it over and away from this section, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm going to go ahead and start cutting, and we'll see what happens. So taking a look at this nice here, max speeding rods, turbo. I do need to clock this thing, so I'm going to have to loosen all these bolts here and spin it. So what I'd like to do is spin this all the way down so it faces this way, and then I need this to be on the top and the drain to be on the bottom, and then I would like this to face exactly like it sits like this. I want this straight down, and I want this flipped the correct way, and this has to be spun the other way. So that's the way I plan to run it, or maybe this might shoot down. I'm not really entirely sure yet, but I gotta figure out what fits and what works, and this up here does not work. That's not what I need. So I'm gonna spin this down and fix this as well, and then hopefully I'll be able to more accurately get an idea of how everything's gonna look. It looks to me like the flange is gonna go in there nicely on top, and I don't know, I guess we'll have to see how this flange goes. I'd like for it to sit flat here, but I just don't know how high I can have the turbo. So maybe somewhere in this area right here. Hopefully the turbo will not sit too high. I'm just gonna have to play with it. I gotta figure out exactly where I want to send the exit out of the turbo to go into the intercooler. I gotta make sure I have a clear path. So maybe up front here will be nice. I can send it right over. I don't know that I'll have a lot of room for an air cleaner though. On the turbo, so I gotta make sure I save room to put an elbow so I could put a filter over there somewhere additionally. So I don't know, I'd like to be able to run a filter, but I don't want to have to just run it open. So I don't know, a lot of things to consider, but I know that I need to clock the turbo and get it mounted, and then I'll see about making the rest of the manifold. Alright guys, so I'm pretty excited to show you this, but basically I have a good amount of this manifold tacked up. At least the rear section is all tacked up. I have cut it in half. I split it like I was talking about before. Then I got this pipe right here, which is like 2.5 or 2 1/4. And I ended up cutting that in half, so you can see inside of there is all hollow. You can see all the way through to the runners, and that's where the exhaust is going to come from on the other side. Looking down under, you can see this guy right here, which is the AC, which we are clearing, and then to the right of that you can see down there is my V-band, and that is where we're going to hook up to our crossover. So we're going to have, I think I should be able to just run a piece from down low. I was thinking about doing another, I don't know, I may try to adjust that somewhat to move it out of the way, more so out of the way of our downpipe in that area. I might just move it back. I'm not entirely sure what I want to do with that yet, but if you look down there you can see where our crossover is, and we just have to make that merge. But it's looking really good. I put a plug wire in to make sure that I still can, and I'm clearing the last plug wire, and I have really good clearance on the body down here. Hopefully you can see on the GoPro the body and the pipe are really close, but it's not going to hit. And the over here, the valve cover, I'm trying to take the plug wire off so you guys can see the clearance there on the valve cover, but yeah, the valve cover clearance is also pretty tight. Almost just fell. Anyway, before I hurt myself, I'm gonna go ahead and take this off and just kind of beef up my tack so nothing moves, and I'll show you guys what the manifold looks like when it's off the car. So I was just doing a little measuring. I'm trying to see exactly how high I can put the turbo. To be honest, I'd like to put it as high as possible. I think that'll keep it out of the way as best as possible. So I have my tape measure here sitting on the frame rail, and I just kind of have it sticking up. You can see that we're just a little bit proud of the fender line here, because the roof does, or the hood does come up just a bit. So if you look from the front of the grill, we're coming up past the grill only slightly, but we're pretty much in line right there. And when I close this, I can get it, you know, the first latch, and I can see in here that we're not yet touching. So if I push down further, I could actually fully latch this. I'm not going to, because I'm going to crush all my wires over there, but basically I could fully latch it and that would not touch, I promise. So I know that that is like a good height, and you know, obviously that looks to be about a little higher than the EVAP over here, and that's all the way back here. So we have that much room back here too, so I can be up to that high. I was concerned about being that high because I didn't want to hit, but I think that'll give me more room to run stuff. I may even be able to retain the stock coolant location for the coolant jug. I'm not sure on that yet, but I was kind of low and it was kind of seeming like it might be in my way. But I'm gonna have to try to put the coolant jug back and maybe just do a little mock-up again and see if I can, with this new dimension here, find out a good spot for it. So I'm just trying to make this manifold work. What I want to do here is put a piece right here to close this off, and then hopefully chop the flange and then end up with like a 3-inch section here, and then just kind of put like a nice bend on there, like a nice 90 right here, and then have my flange right here and have it sit right on top. I was going to do this way because it seemed like that may work, but that is going to put a lot of stress on the turbo and hang it off, not on the turbo but on the manifold, and hang on the edge of the manifold. I'd rather have it sitting on top and putting all the weight, you know, laterally like this, and not on my welds on my flange here. So that would be nice to sit it upright. So that's kind of what I'm going to shoot for, and hopefully we can achieve it. I know I'm going to have to reroute these, maybe just extend them a little bit and run them around or something like that. So not sure yet, but remains to be seen. We're going to keep picking away at it. Okay, so I've put in like another full day on this, and part of me is starting to think maybe I should have just bought the other manifold, because, you know, it's kind of taken me quite a while. My first design I had to kind of scrap when I was almost done, so I kind of remade the end of it. I'll show you guys. It's a little bit, looking for a flashlight, it's a little bit weird, but I think it should work. I need to support it because I don't think it's going to be strong enough, but I kind of went a little crazy with pie cuts again, just like I do on everything, and that's just kind of the way it is. I'm worried that it's not going to be strong enough, but I'm thinking I'll find some way to support it, whether I weld something onto the bottom. I'm just thinking right now maybe I could use a piece of the exhaust manifold, that cast steel, onto the bottom to weld on there and hopefully keep it from cracking after I'm done welding it all together. But I do want to make sure that this thing is solid and not going to break on me. So I'd like to make some sort of bracket that goes from from one of the heads here, my bad, one of the heads, like the bolt here, because the heads are identical and they've got you know, holes for the drive, the power steering, and, you know, the alternator and all that stuff bolted up top over there. So it's got the same bolt holes, so we can put some bolts in there and make some sort of bracket that'll go over to this flange and hopefully hold it steady and keep it from torquing and pulling the whole thing down. So this turbo is really heavy, and I know it's going to be a lot of stress on this, so I plan to support it, because obviously I just use regular exhaust pipe, so it is a bit concerning to me. If I use like some nice Schedule 40, like some big old tubing that's actually made for manifolds, I would probably be in a better spot. But you know, this is how I do it, hack job. So we'll see how it goes with the little hack, and try to make it work. And yeah, that's where we're at right now. So this all has to be kind of finish welded before I can even attempt to rest the turbo up there and mock up some brackets for it. So yeah, maybe I should have just bought the $300 one, but I guess it's kind of cool that we're making our own, even though it is a pain. But I know this one's definitely going to fit like I want it to, and I think it's going to look pretty cool, the orientation of everything. I'm going to try to put it on like a slight angle in the front here, and we'll see what that does for us. But I still got to make a nice slice. After I finish weld this together, I got to use the Sawzall and cut this to make it look nice and straight, and then we'll test fit the turbo on there, and we'll see what it looks like. Try to close the hood and all that good stuff. So hopefully we have, I don't know, hopefully we have some luck here. This has just been insane. So I've been screwing around with looking at the turbo and the mounting flange and this setup here, and I got a little level on it. I don't know if you guys are able to see, but the bubble is right in the center. So we are pretty level here on this flange. I got the last piece to add. I kept cutting it and re-welding and not even re-welding, yeah, I just kept cutting it, and I was worried I was gonna run out of pipe soon because I kept chopping it, but eventually I think I got it now. It's nice and level, and front to back it's pretty decent as well. It looks to be about the same angle as the engine. I can always try to prop up the flange when I'm welding it, but this I think is going to be pretty good. It's nice and low. I hope that the turbo does not hit. I think it should be okay because it's going to be kind of in this range, and we get the highest hood clearance there. If I got to cut out the little bit of shielding area there, I will. Hopefully I can fit it with a blanket. I don't think I should have any problems. It is a little bit unorthodox to mount it all the way over here, but I think I realized the problem with this turbo is that it's the flange is on this side. It's almost like it's meant to be mounted on the other side of the engine. If this exhaust housing was reversed, like the other way, then I think that it would be a lot better for my particular application, just because it's kind of sending it this way. So if I put it here, it's like right in the oil cap. So normally they go the other way, and I think that makes it easier, but this is kind of making it challenging for me. But it is what it is. I'm practicing my fab skills. So I got some plans on how I want to run stuff, like the heater hoses. I think I just want to 90 them right there and extend the lines and run all the way here. This coolant jug, I want to try to get up there, and I saw some guy do like a nice long hose here with like a 90 elbow on it, and then he just ran it down into there like normal. And so I think if I do both of those things, I should be able to retain the factory coolant jug and those core lines. And I want to heat wrap obviously all the AC stuff in the manifold and try to keep the temps down. So that's the plan. I got a lot of work to do. I took a lot of the supports out down here. I guess, you know, it's just added weight really. It doesn't really do too much. I mean, in the event of a collision, I guess maybe it'll be helpful, but you know, if this thing gets crashed that hard, it's going to be wrecked anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Anyway, we got all that stuff fabbed up, so I'm going to go ahead and try to tack this. I'm running out of gas, so I'm just going to get through doing that, and I will try to tack up the crossover pipe, which actually fell off. This thing shot off my vise when I was trying to sawzall this, and it landed on the ground and knocked that piece off. Everything's just tacked in place, so that thing kind of went flying. This piece stayed solid though, so I'm glad. Nothing bent or anything, so just got to re-tack that on and wait for more gas to do all the finished welding on this thing. It's pretty crazy. It's definitely a crazy creation of mine. This is one of the crazier things I've built, but I'm pretty excited because I think it's going to work. I just got to, like I said, make some sort of bracketry to hold and support the turbo, since it is such a big old beach ball of a turbo, you know what I mean? This thing is like, I don't know, it's not that big. Plenty of people have bigger turbos, but it is heavy. So I want to support it, and don't want any of my welds to crack. So I'm going to keep on going with this, tack this piece in here, and then I think we'll move on to doing the crossover. And once everything is all in place and I can rest the turbo on it, I'll you know, take a little picture, and I think that'll be where we end off, or you know, maybe I'll show the finished welded process. But this is the next step here. That's pretty cool. I'm excited. So I just figured I could mount the GoPro up like this, hopefully it doesn't fall, just to show you guys what the turbo looks like mocked up on there. And I think I'm going to run it totally straight. I was going to run it on an angle, but I think I'm going to run it straight just because I think it'll work. I think I'll be able to put a 90 coupler on there, maybe reroute that coolant line somewhere else, either use a 90 or figure something out. But I think this should work, and it should put the exhaust in a good spot too. And yeah, it should leave us some room over there to maybe add a wastegate onto there, and then pipe it directly into the exhaust right over the AC line there, or something like that. Or we could run it inside there and pipe it up. I'm not sure. I got plenty of room in here now. Now that the turbo is all up in front and center here, we got a lot of room down low, so we can run the wastegate down there. Or I could run it underneath the vehicle, but I do want to run it on the turbo side up here. I think that would be more efficient. But I think this will work. Should still be able to run a filter on it as long as I run a nice 90 and a little pipe here. And then I may clock the turbo a little bit on the compressor side just to get the pipes to go in around the radiator down there. But all in all, I'm pretty happy. I think it's looking really nicely. It's going to work very well. And as long as the hood closes, which certainly seems like it's going to, because I know I had hood clearance up here with this hose all the way up here, I could actually touch the hood. So I think this should be perfect. The feed line's going to come in there. I got room for the drain line. I think this is going to be what it's going to be, and I'm pretty happy about it. So I'm just going to work on the crossover now, and we should be good to go. I like how this looks though, sitting in the front here. It's nice and high, which I wanted. So, you know, you definitely can't miss it. You open the hood, you definitely see this bad boy here. So, anyway, this is going to be pretty sweet, guys. I'm excited. And, yeah, come a long way. Oh, this thing's so heavy. So, guys, to give an update, I am cutting the final piece to the manifold right now. And I'm going to make a couple of slits in it so that it'll fit in this center section right here. And we will cover up this hole and make the transition from the 2.5 to the 3-inch. Or 2 1/4, whatever it is. Anyway, doesn't really matter to me. It's all just used exhaust pipe, and we're all just having a good time. That's the point of this. Hopefully nobody hates on me for this. I'm sure some people will. They'll say, why didn't you just buy one? You hacked that thing together. But you know what? It's kind of cool. I like it. So, whatever. Anyway, I'm going to keep at it here. Some tips from a non-welder. Obviously not a professional, you can tell by how everything's all splattered on there. But, you know, there are times where I got a good flow going, and there are times where I don't. But that it all comes with experience, and you got to get out there and you got to try it. And if you're not going to pay for somebody to teach you, then you're going to have to learn yourself. So just experiment with settings and mess around with things until you're not blowing through. Dial back the wire feed if it's just slapping down a thick bead and you're not really penetrating, you know, dial it back and hold it on a little longer, or turn up the heat so you're not blowing through. I mean, just kind of mess with it, you know, you'll get a feel for it. And as far as welding V-bands, you're supposed to have the flange on it when you're welding, and that way, you know, you don't warp anything. So I'm going to try to run a nice little bead along here, get it nice and hot, and put our flange on here. And then we'll go ahead and do the last final piece to mock up, and all the while I'm just going to keep coming back to the pie cuts and doing little sections at a time. It gets kind of hot, and I don't want to overheat it. This is nothing compared to my downpipe. My downpipe on the Honda was, I mean, just like the same thing, but like for 3 feet of this, like pie cuts like crazy. That video is up on my channel somewhere. It is super ugly, but it still works, and it's cranking. So it just goes to show you don't have to be a welder, you don't have to be a pro, you don't have to make something that looks nice, but it'll work. So this is working so far. I don't know, I haven't tested it on the car yet, but it'll work fine. I'm going to keep at it, and yeah, I'm going to have to probably deck this surface. It's probably pretty shot. I'm going to maybe grind it and then maybe sand it flat on a table or something. I don't know. Should have did that first when it was easy, but anyway, we'll get it figured out. I'm going to put this piece in, and I'll update you guys after I get a little more of this welding done here. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this process, this being the first actual video of, you know, real turbo kit install. In my opinion, this is really the start of everything. So seeing the turbo in the vehicle is always what gets me going. I'm excited about this. You may have to clock the turbo, but yeah, anyway, I'm going to end this video here. Thank you guys for watching. If you're interested in the rest of the progress on this, definitely subscribe and keep an eye out. I'll have playlists and stuff like that you guys can watch to see this whole build series. So this is pretty much the beginning of building the turbo kit, and this has been the fabrication section of making this beautiful or ugly manifold. It's kind of a monstrosity, you know, like it's like, why would you do that? But at the end of the day, this thing's gonna make power, and I'm gonna laugh all the way to I don't know, wherever I'm going, because this thing's gonna take me all over, because it's gonna be a super reliable daily, hopefully. That's the plan anyway, and that's what they tell me. So should be fun. Gonna keep the AC, if you guys are wondering. That's staying, and we should be able to make it work. So stay tuned, and thank you guys for watching. Peace out.